Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Jorge Masvidal's flying knee knockout of Ben Askren at UFC 239 is the fastest KO in UFC history, just 5 seconds. This wasn't luck. Masvidal and his team knew Askren would shoot for a takedown immediately, so they drilled the flying knee over and over. When the fight started, Masvidal sprinted across the cage, launched the knee, and Askren was out cold before he hit the mat. This KO wasn't just about speed, it was about perfect timing, anticipation, and the willingness to risk everything in the opening round. Masvidal's celebration, lying on the canvas and mocking Askren, became as iconic as the knockout itself. The moment went viral, turning Masvidal into a superstar overnight and ending Askren's undefeated run in the most brutal way possible. Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. Conor McGregor's 13-second knockout of Jose Aldo at UFC 194 is one of the most famous first-round KOs ever. Aldo, the reigning featherweight king, charged forward with a right hand. McGregor, who had predicted the finish, slipped back and countered with a left hook that landed flush. Aldo was out before he hit the ground. This KO was the result of months of psychological warfare. McGregor got inside Aldo's head, and when the fight started, Aldo was emotional and overcommitted. McGregor's timing and precision were perfect. His left hand became legendary. The win made McGregor the undisputed featherweight champion and cemented his reputation as Mystic Mac. If you're loving these wild UFC knockouts, hit subscribe so you never miss the next jaw-dropping finish. Ronda Rousey versus Cat Zingano. Ronda Rousey's 14-second armbar submission of Cat Zingano at UFC 184 is technically a submission, but the finish was set up by a first-round KO sequence. Zingano charged Rousey with a flying knee, but Rousey reversed her, took her back, and transitioned to an armbar in a blink. Rousey's ability to finish fights in the first round was unmatched in women's MMA. Her aggression, judo throws, and submission skills overwhelmed opponents before they could even get started. This fight showed how a first-round finish can be about overwhelming pressure and flawless execution, not just a single punch. Francis Ngannou versus Alistair Overeem. Francis Ngannou's knockout of Alistair Overeem at UFC 218 is one of the most violent first-round KOs ever. Overeem, a decorated striker, tried to clinch with Ngannou, but the Predator unleashed a left uppercut that nearly lifted Overeem off his feet. Overeem was unconscious before he hit the canvas. Ngannou's power is legendary, but this KO was about more than just brute force. He timed Overeem's movement perfectly and delivered the uppercut with devastating precision. The knockout was so brutal that it instantly went viral and became a staple of UFC highlight reels. Don Frye versus Thomas Ramirez. Don Frye's 8-second KO of Thomas Ramirez at UFC 8 was the first truly viral first-round knockout in UFC history. Frye, a mustached brawler, charged across the cage and landed a right hand that dropped Ramirez instantly. This KO set the tone for the early days of the UFC, where anything could happen and fights could end in seconds. Frye's aggression and willingness to engage from the opening bell made him a fan favorite and a pioneer of the first-round KO. Chan Sung Jung versus Mark Hominick. Chan Sung Jung, also known as the Korean Zombie, knocked out Mark Hominick in just 7 seconds at UFC 140. Hominick came out aggressive, but Jung landed a perfect right-hand counter that dropped him instantly. This KO showed the importance of timing and composure. Jung didn't rush. He waited for Hominick to overcommit, then landed the counter. The win tied the record for fastest KO in UFC featherweight history and made the Korean Zombie a cult hero. Andrei Arlovski versus Paul Buentello. At UFC 55, Andrei Arlovski defended his heavyweight title by knocking out Paul Buentello in just 15 seconds. Buentello came forward, Arlovski landed a right hand, and the fight was over before it really began. This KO is a classic example of how a single mistake in the opening seconds can end a fight. Arlovski's speed and accuracy were the difference, and the finish became one of the most replayed knockouts in heavyweight history. James Irvin versus Houston Alexander. James Irvin's 8-second KO of Houston Alexander at UFC Fight Night 13 is one of the fastest and most spectacular first-round knockouts ever. Irvin landed a perfectly timed Superman punch that dropped Alexander instantly. The Superman punch is a risky move, but when it lands, it's devastating. Irvin's timing and confidence paid off, and the KO became a staple of UFC highlight reels. Todd Duffy versus Tim Hague. Todd Duffy's 7-second KO of Tim Hague at UFC 102 is the fastest knockout in UFC heavyweight history. Duffy came out aggressive, landed a jab and a right hand, and Hague was out cold. This KO showed the importance of aggression and confidence in the opening seconds. Duffy's willingness to engage immediately paid off with a record-setting finish. Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Francis Ngannou's 22nd knockout of Jairzinho Rozenstruik at UFC 49 was pure violence. Ngannou charged forward with wild hooks, landing a left that put Rozenstruik out cold. This KO showed that sometimes raw aggression and power can overwhelm even skilled strikers. Ngannou's blitz was risky, but his confidence in his power paid off with another first-round finish. If you want more epic UFC moments and breakdowns, smash that subscribe button for more videos like this.